Military operation in Libya does not protect the civilian population from Gaddafi, nor even the desire to gain control over local oil wells. Gold is the root cause of this. This is the point of view of well-known Russian entrepreneur and social activist German Sterligov. He wrote about it today in his blog. The global financial crisis from which the planet is not recovered until now has forced many countries to revise the system of interstate calculations, namely to abandon the dollar and replace it with gold. Gaddafi was one of the main supporters of this movement. He proposed to make payments in gold dinars. The US and European Union were strongly against it. If the idea really came to life, it would actually mean the collapse of the entire global banking system that powers the global economy today. Okay, let's discuss this. Here in our studio, the author of this theory and founder of the Moscow Gold Stock Exchange, German Sterligov. Hello. Actually, authorities did not give us a license for this gold stock exchange. Thus we were forced to stop this kind of activity and choose another ways. Last year we have more operations in gold international payments, which become increasingly popular, and then ban in Libya, and then ban in Libya. I want to tell you about the roots of this problem. Back in 2002, Prime Minister of Malaysia, Mohammed, together with Muammar Gaddafi, took the initiative of introducing Persian gold dinar. This idea was initially supported by Iran, Sudan and Bahrain. Then, about a year later, they were joined by Indonesia, UAE and some other countries, so this idea began to be developed. There were several meetings of finance ministers of these countries. Thus the transition from the dollar and euro interstate calculations into the gold dinar has gained more realistic shape. Gold dinar, which was coined in sufficient quantities, began to be used as pilot projects in countries like Malaysia, Indonesia and Iran. Gold dinar payments in shops also have started. They continue even now, although paper money operate on the par with them. Do you have gold dinar with you? I don't have it. We have our goldens. Because different countries promote their gold coins for transactions. We promote golden. Why golden? Why not a Russian name? Golden means of gold. There were guilders in the past. This in English means made of gold. State coin holds the Russian name Zolotoy on it. We offered to Libya to use our coin, but it's big. It weighs an ounce. How did you do this offer? In the process of negotiations, because there were long negotiations with the intermediaries, with Russian business leaders, with the Arabs. I was not involved in the negotiations. Well-known businesswoman Nadezhda Azarenko led those negotiations, as well as a large law firm by Artur Arapetov. They did it because I am just a co-owner of the company. You invited me, but you could invite the participants of those negotiations. By the way, you can contact them, they're always in touch. But today you're our guest, so you'll have to answer. It was all over as in the case of Hitler and Stalin. When Stalin was preparing to Hitler's aggression and concentrated troops on the border, Hitler attacked and destroyed everything. Here all the same happened with the Western community. This is my fully personal point of view. Muammar Gaddafi was ready to announce about the escape from the dollar and eurozone, the first step that has taken against him. The world banking system had arrested his dollar and euro accounts under the pretext of human rights violations. Wait a minute, his account was arrested after he began to shoot peaceful citizens. Oh, stop it. This is what's happening today in many countries. Just take a look how many civilians are shot in other countries, from Yemen and so on. Nobody arrests any account there. You can always find some excuse. In this case, that was the pretext. But this was not the cause. The fact is that the psychological impact of Gaddafi's statements, who is one of the most important Muslim leaders, is incomparable with transition to gold transactions in unknown Malaysian state Kolontai. There are only gold coins out there in circulation today. They have Sheikh Abubakar, respected person, but who knows him? But here Gaddafi was ready to declare its withdrawal from the global banking system, from the power of the US Federal Reserve. A number of countries would follow him after that. And because the last few years preparing for this transition is very intense, and because Gaddafi was preparing African countries for convergence and the introduction of a single African currency, a chain of revolutions inspired by the CIA has started. This was done to disrupt the plans of the collapse of the global banking system. We in Russia cannot develop because of it too. The transition from paper money into gold is the release from the banksters' slavery, from infinite credits, bills, declarations, reports. This is something that billions of people dedicate their lives from birth to death. Okay, then please explain us a very simple thing. We have today a huge number of budgets that are not backed by gold reserves. They're not backed at all. They're backed by sliced paper. Of course, paper is always just a paper. It turns out that if Gaddafi said that he comes out of the banking system and will only trade using the gold, it means that he will have to trade with himself and with those few countries that have moved into gold too. Why I started with the prehistory. Who will sell him oil then? For 8 years, a number of countries from Indonesia to Iran were involved at the state level in the active preparation of the transition from paper money into gold. Which countries? Not the US, nor France, nor Germany, nor Russia. These are huge populous countries that really produce a lot of essential commodities. It's not about computers or similar stuff. They're not essential, but something that's really necessary for life. Food, means of production, oil. By the way, about Russia. Please note that right before they started to bomb Gaddafi, when he realized that he lost time, he appealed to China, India and Russia. He appealed to countries that are predisposed to move into gold, especially China, that has repeatedly stated about the transition to the gold yuan. See what did your rebels, of whom you speak with such a pride. Don't say ours. Wait a second. First of all, they did not create a rebel government. Nobody heard about it. They founded the central bank in Benghazi as an alternative to Gaddafi's central bank. This means that it's not that they're opposed to Gaddafi, but that they have a different algorithm for financial calculations. Totally opposite. And yet, as I understand it, only few countries can perform calculations in gold. Those 12 countries. I assure you, this is quite a lot. And they're only among themselves. The hope was that there'll be a chain reaction, because everyone is already tired of being slaves of the Fed and Mr. Bernanke personally, because the United States are slaves of Mr. Bernanke too, because the Central Bank of the United States borrows from the Fed and Mr. Bernanke. The legislative initiative of deputies of South Carolina, which is not the last state in the US, was about moving into a gold dollar and the rejection of paper dollars. If Muammar Gaddafi had time to escape from sliced paper money that cost nothing, he would be supported by not only Muslim countries, but by a huge number of others, perhaps up to Germany. If you remember, Merkel recently stated how long we're going to pay for the US mistakes. Well, they wanted to restore the Deutsche Mark. They wanted to move into gold. The whole world, which does not want to work for Bernanke, wants to move into gold, because the absolute power of Bernanke began when the US abandoned the gold. Okay, it is clear as a pikestaff. And here's the last question. Are you not afraid, in sense that you are promoting a transition to the gold? My dear, I live in the forest. And what about a coalition? First, the coalition will have to implement the most complicated operation in Russia. But by that time, I become a partisan with my sons. Partisan German telegraph was our guest. Sounds like a good political thriller.